So taking a moment to get yourself comfortable here, position your hands so that your shoulders can be soft and relaxed. And then turn your attention to your spine, just sitting in a way that allows you to have a sense of alertness in your spine without adding tension anywhere like shoulders. And when you're ready, just allow your eyes to soften down towards the ground or close, beginning to just arrive here in the room you're in on your mat. And then invite your awareness inwards. Take a little bit of time to just check in with yourself as if you were checking in on a good friend. And as always, not trying to change anything, just notice what you notice when you pay attention. And now take a few moments to check in with your breath. Same thing as you pay attention. What do you notice? And you might notice the quality of your breath this morning. You might notice where you feel the movement of your breath when you pay attention. It might be much more obvious at your nostrils, or it might be more obvious at your chest or your belly. Just tune in and see what you find. And when you're ready, let's try a 3-part breathing exercise. So, for this one, we'll imagine filling the lungs as we inhale in 3 parts, just as if you're filling up a jar. So, drawing your inhale down to the bottom of your lungs and filling up the bottom third, and then the middle third, and then the top third. And then as you exhale, you do it in the opposite direction. So, exhaling, emptying the top third, and then the middle third, and finally the bottom third. And I want you to just go at the pace that feels natural for you. So, we're not pushing the breath to be bigger or deeper, just visualizing that sense of inhaling in 3 parts and exhaling in 3 parts. So when you're ready, try this out. And when you're ready to let it go, just allow your breath to come back to its natural rhythm. You might want to take a moment to notice if anything feels different after just a couple of minutes of slowing down, paying attention, breathing. Now let's start to move. As you inhale, draw your arms up, place your palms together, and as you exhale, trace your hands down the center line of your body. Let's do that a few more times. Just letting your movement follow the rhythm of your breath. And the next time you bring your arms up, we'll keep them up. And as you exhale, send your right arm back and your left forward. And as you inhale, come back to center. And then exhaling, go the other way. And let's try this movement out a few more times. Again, movement following breath if that feels natural for you. And the next time you come back to center, we'll let this one go. Just relaxing your arms down by your sides, maybe giving them a little bit of a shake out. Nice. Rest your hands, breathe easy. And let's do a few shoulder circles. Just going a few times one way and a few times the other way. Nice. Let this one go. And now we're going to head into a side bend. So just bring your fingertips down by your sides. And if you can't touch the ground easily, like I can't here sitting on my block, grab an extra prop, blanket or block or whatever you've got so that your fingers can be touching the ground. And we'll start with the right hand down. And now we can move with our breath again here if you like. With an inhale, bringing a little bit more length to your spine and reaching the left arm up. And as you exhale, folding over, find your side bend where you still feel nice and connected to the ground. And send your breath into the left side of your ribs, the left side of your waist. And then when you're ready, come on back up to center, maybe reaching both arms up here at the center. And let that go. If you're using a prop, you can switch it over to the other side and we'll set up here. Left fingertips down, bringing your attention back to your breath. As you inhale, reaching the other arm up, adding some length to your spine. And as you exhale, find your side bend on this side. Again, breathe into your side. And when you're ready, come on back up. Reach up for a moment and let it go. Exhaling. Nice. Have a bit of movement here. Awesome. All right. And we're going to bring our fingertips down again on the right side. So if you're using your prop, you can move it over. Nice. And again, start with a bit of length in your spine. Maybe soften your shoulders as you do this. And then just tip your head over to the left. Take a breath or so here. You can experiment with keeping your right fingertips on the ground, or you might want to reach your arm away, see if that changes the stretch for you at all. And then turn your nose down towards your shoulder for another couple of breaths. And then we'll let this one go. Just let your head hang down, let your hands rest. And then come on back up, and we'll do that on the other side. Excuse me. So, left fingertips down this time. Bring a little bit of length to your spine and soften your shoulders. And keep that nice sense of length as you tip your head over the other direction. And again, just breathe here, maybe breathing into the side of your neck. You can experiment with a arm position, see if it changes that stretch for you. And when you're ready, you can turn your nose down towards your shoulder a little bit more. See how that changes the stretch for you. And again, when you're ready, let it all go. Let your head have its weight here. And come on back up when you're ready. Nice. Just take a moment to move any way you'd like. And let's just do a few little seated cat and cows here. Just arching your spine and rounding. Just go at your own pace. Find your neutral spine once again. Nice. Okay, let's move our arms a little bit more here. So we'll do a few rotations. Start by bringing one arm out by your side, bring the other hand to rest on the front of your shoulder, and then rotate the whole arm. A little bit in, a little bit out. Think about moving your upper arm bone to do this rotation so it's not the forearm leading the way. See if you can allow the shoulder itself to stay nice and quiet. And once you've got a sense for that, you can kind of try this in different positions. So maybe bring your arm forward and try your rotations. You might notice that your shoulder wants to move a little bit more in this position. Just get curious, see if you can make that rotation nice and peaceful and quiet. You might even want to bring your arm up a little bit, see how it feels here, if there's more or less room to move. Or you can bring it up and out to the side and see how does that one feel. And we'll let this side go. We'll do that on the other side. So we'll start with just our kind of simple starting point of noticing what your shoulder wants to do when you try rotation. Getting the feeling of rotating just arm bone moving and shoulder socket. And then try it out in different positions when you're ready. Let it go when you're ready. Shake it out. Nice. All right, let your shoulders be soft. Take an easy breath. Nice. Okay, let's change it up. We're gonna sit with our legs straight out in front like this. And I always like to sit on something a little lower when I am sitting in this position. Nice. And once you've found this straight legged seat, just give your legs a little bit of a shake. Nice. Bring your fingertips to the ground by your side and bring a sense of alertness to your legs. So I like to flex my feet, toes pointing up. Having that nice sense of length in your spine. We'll set ourselves up for a twist. So let's start by bending the right knee. You can plant your foot on the inside or the outside of the other leg, whatever feels more comfortable for you. And then notice what happens in your spine if you're leaning back a little bit when you do this. Can you reposition so that it feels like your spine is fairly neutral? Nice. And now let's move with our breath again. With your inhale, bring the left arm up, maybe adding a little bit of length to your spine. And then as you exhale, turn your ribs towards the right and bring your arm down to rest, really nice and lightly on the top of your knee. And let's breathe here. And then come on back to center when you're ready. Nice. We'll keep our legs like this and just let this knee drop out to the side. So if your foot was on the inside of your straight leg, then you can just cross it over anywhere that feels comfortable. Nice. So we'll take a breath here. Let that knee feel a little bit more heavy. You can even try pressing it down towards the ground, see how that feels. And then if you can reach your ankle, you can bring your left hand onto your ankle and your right hand to hold on to the bottom of your foot for a breath or two. If you find that you're rounding through your back when you do this, try to kind of back it up so that your spine can be a little bit more neutral. Just experimenting with position. And if you can't reach at all, then just let your hands rest on your leg. Nice. And if you like, if you have space to move here with a sense of alertness in your spine, so without being curled forward, can you hinge at your hips at all and find a little bit of a forward fold? See if that gives you a bit of stretch in your hip. And then we'll let this one go. Unravel, straighten your legs, shake them out. Nice. All right. Let's do that twist on the other side. So bending the other knee, choose the position that suits you best for this foot. Notice if your spine is changing shape to try and allow the leg movement, then change the legs so that your spine can be fairly straight. You always want to start with a nice neutral spine with a sense of length in it before we go into a twist. So once you find that shape with fingertips on the ground, bring your attention back to your breath. With your next inhale, bring your right arm up, maybe adding some length to your spine. And as you exhale, turn your ribs to come into your twist. Float your arm down and let it rest really lightly on top of your knee. Stay here for another 2 or 3 breaths. And let this one go when you're ready. Come on back to center. Give your legs some shake. Actually, we're forgetting our figure four. Come on back to your figure four position like this when you're ready. Nice. Once you've got that again, see if you can press your knee down or maybe just let it feel heavy. Notice your spine. If you're curling in your spine, can you rearrange so that you're a little bit more upright? And then see if you can reach your ankle. And if you can, then you can have right hand on ankle and left hand on the bottom of your foot. Rearrange if you need to. If that's a big reach, then just stay right here with your hands on your leg like this. And then again, if you are able to have a nice neutral spine, see if there's movement at your hips to hinge forward. If this just means that you're curling in your spine, then just come back to sitting upright. Just see what actually works for you today. We want this to be a hip stretch and not a spine stretch. So wherever you are, let's breathe here. And then letting this all go when you're ready. Unravel your legs. Shake them out this time. For real. Nice. Okay. And let's switch positions. We'll come into our tabletop on hands and knees. And then if you've got blocks or books or shoe boxes or anything that can serve as blocks, you can bring them up to the top of your mat. And if you like, if knee padding would help you can feel more comfortable, you can get that set up as well. So once you've found your tabletop position, let's move our spine a little bit more here. We'll do a few rounds of cat and cow. You can go with your breath here if you like. Inhaling as you arch your back into cow pose, and exhaling as you round into cat. And just go with your breath a few times or take your own pace. Coming back to a neutral spine when you're ready. Nice. All right. And from here, let's try some of those rotations in our arms again. But this time we're going to keep our hands planted on the ground. I like to make my hands a little wider than shoulder distance apart for this. And then bring your attention to your upper arm bones. And it might be that there's not a whole lot of movement, but try to add some internal rotation. See if you can spin your upper arms a little bit in and then try it the other way. A little external rotation. And now go back and forth a few times. And for me, I really notice my elbows moving here when I try this, but it'll feel different with your hands planted on the ground. And then bring your arms back to neutral. Nice. Okay, bring your hands back into whatever position is the most comfortable and supportive for you. And now let's give the back of our legs a little bit of stretch. So just reach one leg back behind you, tuck your toes under. And once you've got this shape, just press back through your heel. See if you feel a bit of stretch along the back line of your leg when you do this. And then switch sides. Same thing for the other leg. And then bring that knee back in as well. Lovely. All right. From here, we'll try out a downward facing dog or one of the alternatives to downward facing dog that we could do instead. So I'll show you the alternatives first, and then I'll walk you through downward facing dog. So the first alternative is one called puppy pose, where we leave the legs out of down dog. And for this one, keep your knees where they are, walk your hands forward, and bring your hands outer shoulder distance apart. So for me, that means my pinky finger and the ring finger as well are off the edge of the mat. And then just lean down so that you're kind of trying to line your torso up with the line of your arms. So if you had a straight line from your fingertips to your tailbone. And so that's alternative number one. Alternative number two is to take the arms out of the equation a little bit, or the wrists really, and have our legs in downward facing dog. So for this one, we'll bring our forearms down to the ground. Forearms set up so that your elbows are kind of shoulder distance apart. And then we'll add the leg half of downward facing dog by tucking our toes under and lifting our hips up off of the ground. So this is alternative number two. You can stay with either one of those and hang out there for a breath or two, or you can try out down dog. And for this one, we'll walk our hands forward just a touch, bring them outer shoulder distance apart. Spread your fingers nice and wide, and then press down into the base of your thumbs, the base of your pinky fingers, and all of your fingertips. Feel a little sense of engagement through your hands and your forearms, and then tuck your toes under. Lift your knees off the ground, send your hips back. Nice. All right, reposition your feet so that they feel comfortable. Maybe bend your knees a little bit. Feel as if you could distribute your weight evenly on hands and feet. And then see if you can add a little bit of external rotation to your arms. A little spin out in the upper arm bones. Soften the tops of your shoulders. Let's breathe here. Maybe pedaling out your legs here as well. Bending one knee, pressing the other heel down to the ground. And then switching sides and going back and forth a couple of times if you'd like. And then let that go. Let there be a little bend in both knees. And then we're going to come up to a forward fold at the top of our mat. So if you're in down dog, you can just walk your feet up towards your hands if that's comfortable. Or you can take whatever path suits you to come to a forward fold, which can be either a halfway forward fold like this with a neutral spine, or it can be a forward fold like this with your spine curled forward. Wherever you are, let's take a breath here. See if you can let your head go a little bit. Just let it be heavy. And then with an inhale, come halfway up. See if you can add a little bit of length to your spine. Bring in your head right in line with your spine. And as you exhale, come back to your forward fold. It might be just letting your head hang down, or it might be curling forward all the way. And as you inhale, come on all the way up to standing. You can reach your arms up when you get to the top. And then exhale, let it go. Let your arms come down, have a little bit of a shake out. Nice. Take a moment here, just stand easy. Feel your feet on the ground. Soften your shoulders. Take a breath and just notice how you feel. All right. And from here, let's head through a sun salutation. So you can have your blocks up here at the top of your mat if you know you like to use them for forward folds or for going into lunges. And so standing with your feet about hip width distance apart, whatever feels most comfortable for you. Begin by bringing your attention back to your breath. And as you inhale, lift your arms up, soften your knees, and with your exhale, you can start to hinge at your hips to come into your forward fold. And again, as you inhale, come halfway up again. As you exhale, fold forward again. Bring your hands to the ground or your blocks, and we're going to step back to a lunge. Let's step the right foot back to start with. Nice. Find your lunge shape, and then bring some engagement to your legs. Try to pull the front foot and the back foot towards each other, and then come on up. With your hands resting on your hips, just find your balance here. Reposition if you need to. Keep pulling front foot and back foot towards each other. And then you can choose, keep your hands as they are, or choose a different arm position. We'll stay here for a few breaths. Lovely. Bring your hands back down if they've been lifted. And I'll give you two options here. We're going to come down to a low lunge. So you can either bring your hands down to your blocks or the ground and then set your knee down, or you can just try to keep your hands up as you set your knee down on the ground. Choose your own adventure. Lovely. Nice. Once you're in your low lunge, again, position yourself so you feel steady. Bring your hands to your hips. Nice. And let's try a little twist here. So if your balance feels strong, you can bring your palms together in front of your chest. Touch your thumbs into the center of your chest and position yourself so that your spine can feel fairly neutral. So you're not leaning forward or curling anyway in your spine. And let's do some tiny twists here. So think about your lower body staying nice and still, but your rib cage can move into the twist, side to side. Probably a teeny tiny little twist, but that is fine. See if you can let your head feel like it's staying in line with your fingers. So we don't need to go into a twist and then crank the neck around. Just let this really be a movement of the rib cage. Maybe notice what your legs need to do to keep you upright here. And then come back to center. Bring your hands down to your blocks if you have them. And then step them up to the highest setting you've got. And we're going to go back for a hamstring stretch here. So you can walk your hands back. Set your hips right over top of the back knee and straighten the front leg so you're coming to this shape. And if you don't have blocks, or if you find that you're really curling forward in your spine, then the alternative is to come back here where we were before. So choose whichever option feels the most steady and supported to you. And if you've got your leg out in front, then flex your foot, pull your toes up towards the ceiling, and take a breath. You might like to add the action of pressing your heel down into the ground. See if that changes the stretch for you. You might also like to try at the same time to pull from your heel up to your hip, as if you were trying to drag your heel back. And then soften all that work. Turn your foot down so the whole bottom of your foot is touching the ground. And then again, you might want to try pushing your foot down into the ground and at the same time pulling up. So if you're trying to drag your whole foot back, see how that feels through your shin and your ankle. And then soften, bend your knee, pull this foot back a little bit. Nice. All right, let's come to a plank pose. So there's two options for getting into plank. You can either just bring your hands right down to the ground, so not on the blocks, and then come up to that high lunge shape and just step the front foot back. Or from your low lunge, you can come back to a tabletop and then come up to your plank. So choose your own pathway there. And once you've found your plank, let's take a breath or two. And now let's come all the way down, belly right down to your mat. Rest your arms to start with, rest your head, take a breath. Nice. All right, bring your arms onto the ground along the sides of your body, with your fingertips reaching down towards your feet. And from here, just notice your pelvis on the ground. I like to kind of wiggle my pelvis side to side to really feel. Maybe you can notice the bones of your pelvis on the ground a little bit when you wiggle side to side. And then come to a nice centered position and try to press your tailbone down towards your heels. So keep that action. Can you reach out through the crown of your head at the same time? It feels like your spine is kind of like a slinky that you're lengthening. And then keep that. Roll your shoulders up and back. Lift your head and your chest a little bit off the ground. Keeping your head in line with your spine so you're not cranking it back like this. And then you can stay right here with the fingertips and the tops of the feet on the ground, or you can lift your arms up. You can also lift your feet up. See what feels most comfortable so that your pelvis feels like it's still on the ground. And then let it all go. Bring everything down to the ground. Rest your arms, rest your head. Maybe a little more of that rocking side to side in your pelvis. Lovely. When you're ready, come on back up to your tabletop. And from here, let's try another downward facing dog or one of the two alternatives that I showed you before. So take a moment to get yourself set up. Your hands positioned just like you had before. Either your forearms on the ground or your hands a little farther than shoulder distance apart. Spreading your fingers wide if your hands are down, pressing down through your palms and your fingertips. When you're ready, find your down dog or your puppy pose or your forearm stand. Take a breath or two here. If you're in downward facing dog or puppy pose, you can see if you can add that little bit of external rotation in your upper arms, softening the tops of your shoulders. Take a breath here. And now we're going to transition into a lunge on the other side. So you can either come down to a tabletop and step the right foot forward, or if it's available to you from downward facing dog, you can look up at your hands and just step that right foot forward. So take a moment to make that transition, whichever way suits you. You've got your blocks handy if you're using them. You can bring them under your hands if you'd like. And then with strong legs, make your way up to a high lunge. Nice. Find your balance here. You might want to reposition your feet a little bit so you feel more steady. Keep pulling front foot and back foot towards each other. See if that makes you feel stronger in your legs. And then again, we'll take a few breaths here. Arm position up to you. If it feels more steady to be here, then stay here. If it feels more interesting to have your arms lifted, then try that. Breathe easy. Strong foundation in your legs. And then we're going to come down to a low lunge. So again, you can choose hands down first and then lower your knee, or you can experiment with just lowering your knee right down to the ground. I'm going to grab my knee padding here again. Nice. Once you've got your low lunge shape, let's try that tiny twist again. So find a place where you feel some freedom in your spine to lengthen. Position your hands, thumbs right into the center of your chest. Keep your legs strong as you try out your twist. And keep your focus on your rib cage, thinking about your ribs being the driver of this movement. And coming home to center when you're ready, you bring your hands back down. If you've got some blocks, you can use them here on their highest setting like this. Find your position here for a hamstring stretch, either like this or with your leg back like this. Really pick whichever one actually feels more steady for you. You'll always get more benefit from a stretch when you can feel supported and when you can add a little bit of engagement to it. So if your leg's out in front, then you can flex your foot, pull your toes up, maybe pressing your heel down and dragging from heel up to hip. If you've got your leg out behind you, again, just reach out through your heel. Wherever you are, just take a few breaths. And when you're ready, let's change it up. Turn your whole foot down to touch the ground. Nice. And press your foot down to the ground. Pull your foot back. So if you're trying to gather up your mat between your foot and the back knee. And soften when you're ready. Let that go. Come on back into your low lunge shape. And now we're going to transition up to a forward fold at the top of our mat again. So tuck your toes under on the back foot. Lift your back knee up off of the ground. With the blocks to support you if you'd like, you can shift your weight forward and step the back foot forward. Again, find your forward fold shape, whatever's more appropriate for your spine today. And take a breath. Let your head hang down. If it feels good for your shoulders and your back, you can hold on to your opposite elbows and just let your whole torso hang. And then with your next inhale, we're going to slowly come all the way up. If your back is feeling good today, you can roll your way up rather than hinging like we normally do. Think about first kind of tipping your tailbone down, and then one vertebrae at a time start to come up so that your head and your neck are the last piece to come up to an upright position. Nice. Let everything settle. Have a little bit of a shake out if you'd like. Nice. Take a moment of stillness here. All right. And that roll up position that we did is always an option for you. It's not something I would suggest if you tend to have back problems, but if you feel like you are normally happy in your back, then when I cue you to do a hinge into and out of your forward fold, you can try as an alternative to really roll yourself down into your forward fold or up back out of it. It's kind of like a nice little massage for the different segments of your spine. So now that we're up, let's finish off with a little exploration of Warrior Three. So, Warrior Three is a balancing pose, and it looks like this. I'll just show you really briefly. One leg is the standing leg, the other leg back behind you, trying to keep your hips level. So the hip on the back leg isn't popping up like this. Trying to keep your spine neutral too, so you're not curling or arching. And then in this pose, you can do whatever you want with your hands. You can have hands on hips, you can have kind of an airplane shape or reaching overhead. And what I'm going to propose is you can pick one of two options. One option is to just do the pose and hold it for a few breaths. And this is good work for your standing leg, really good work for your balance. The other is to have a more dynamic exploration of the pose. And for this one, we'll do more of a dipping into and out of the pose. So you can choose what you like. And if balance is giving you a challenge today, feel free to come close to the wall, or even if you have a chair or the arm of a couch nearby, you can set yourself up there. And you can do a little bit of each as well if you want to hold it for a few breaths and then do a more dynamic play with the pose. So let's start with our right leg as the standing leg. So I like to start with my feet hip width distance apart just to really connect with that feeling of support of the ground. And then shift your weight over into the right leg. And I like to have my hands on my hips for this to get a sense for whether I can keep my hips level. So lift the other foot off the ground, send it back behind you, and start to hinge forward. Having some awareness of your hips. If the left hip wants to pop up like this, can you keep them level? Find your Warrior Three. Maybe take a different arm position if you'd like. And then you can choose, stay here for a few breaths, or you can come back out of your Warrior Three and go into and out of the pose. I'm going to hang out here for a few breaths, I think. And just take another minute or two to explore this pose. You can also switch side to side with which standing leg you're working with. It's more of a challenge if you stay on the same standing leg for a couple of minutes. The other kind of fun thing you can do if you're going into and out of the pose is if your balance is feeling awesome today, when you come up, you can try not putting your foot down or just putting a toe down on the ground and see if you can try the pose a few times without the benefit of coming back to standing with both feet on the ground. That is a nice challenge for your standing leg. Take another couple of breaths wherever you are, whether you're moving or whether you're staying still, holding the pose. And then let's all let it go. Come on back to standing on both feet. Nice. Move a little bit. Stretch a little bit if you'd like. And take a moment between sides to just feel the earth beneath your feet. You might compare from side to side here, see if you notice a difference between one side and the other, especially if you were doing this just with the right leg as your standing leg. And let's try that on the other side when you're ready. So again, shifting gently from weight on both feet over to weight on just your left foot. Hands on hips to start with to get a sense of what happens in your hips when you try this pose. And then send the right leg back, hinge forward. Notice your hips if one side's popping up. Can you try to keep them level? And then you can choose, stay here, breathe with it, or take a more dynamic approach. So continuing for a few more minutes to try out this pose in whatever way seems most interesting to you. With balance poses, sometimes I find we tend to hold our breath. So if you notice that when you pay attention, can you try to allow your breath to move smoothly even as you balance? Does it change the way you can or cannot balance if you can breathe more easily? Do you find that makes it easier or harder? Take a couple more breaths here. Softly letting this one go when you're ready. Take a moment, move or stretch. Take a moment of stillness when you're ready. Tuning in, feeling your connection to the ground. Maybe a moment of appreciation for the solid ground beneath your feet. And now let's come right back down to the ground. So we're going to do a little bit more movement once we come to the ground, but we are going to stay down for the rest of the class. So bring along anything you'd like to have for Shavasana, for your resting pose. You're welcome to put on your socks and sweaters now. And if you have a strap, you can bring that along. Actually, if you have a block, you can bring that along too. And if you don't have a block, then if you have a blanket, you can roll your blanket up a little bit like this and use that instead. We're going to place the block or the blanket underneath the back of the pelvis. So I don't want you to use anything super, super hard. Like a book might be a little too hard. So come onto your back when you're ready. Once you're here, just take a breath and feel the solid ground beneath your whole body. And then bring your knees in towards your chest. Give yourself a hug. You can have a little rock from side to side. And come on back to center. Let's let the right foot come down to the ground and we'll stretch the left leg up. And here's where, if you have a strap, you can bring that strap around the bottom of your foot. But you're welcome if you don't have a strap to just hold on to the back or the sides of your thigh. Once you're here, flex your foot, pull your toes down towards your nose, and then point, press your toes up towards the ceiling. Just go back and forth a few times. And then we'll switch sides, getting yourself set up when you're ready. And then start to move your foot, hinging at your ankle. See how that feels in the rest of your leg. And then let this one go as well. All right, and now grab your block or your rolled up blanket, and we'll go into a little bit of a stretch for our hip flexors before we head into our resting pose. So to start off with, bring your feet to the ground and walk them a little closer to your seat. So you have a really strong position to lift your hips up. And then we're going to take that block or rolled up blanket and bring it underneath the back of your pelvis. And if you have a block or something, a little more firmness to it, then lift up one or both feet and make sure the block's in a position that feels comfortable. So once you've got that, bring one knee in towards your chest and just stretch the other leg long so that your heel can rest on the ground. And once you're here, we'll just take a breath or two. You're welcome to do this without any block or blanket under the back of your pelvis too. That will probably still give you a little bit of stretch here. And then let's slowly bring both feet back to the ground and switch sides. Stay here for a few more breaths. And then again, softly, gently bring both feet back to the ground. Just take a breath here in supported bridge pose. And if this position feels comfortable, you are welcome to stay here for a few minutes in our resting pose. This is a restorative yoga pose that some people love. So, but you could choose if you've had enough of it, you can set the block or the blanket off to the side. Choose your own adventure. And then take a moment or two to get yourself really nice and comfortable in whatever position you'd like. So just setting up to find a place where you can rest. So when you have found a comfortable position, tune in, notice if there's any little adjustments you could make to feel more comfortable. And then take a few deeper breaths. You might like to return to that 3-part breath if you enjoyed that at the beginning of the class. And take a moment here. Just send yourself permission to do nothing but relax for the next few minutes. You might even visualizing letting go of any kind of effort as you exhale. Maybe also letting go of any kind of tension, any sense of holding on that you might notice in your body. And just give yourself the next few minutes to allow your mind and your body to rest.